everybody, welcome back to the Blossom Crochet channel. In this video I will be showing you how to crochet this absolutely stunning and really eye-catching crochet stitch. So you can see with working these contrast colours, it really pops, it really stands out. It would make the most incredible blankets, even baby blankets, scarves, literally anything. It's just the most beautiful, beautiful stitch, especially when done in bright contrasting colours like these. So it's a 2-row repeat. Once you get going, it is nice and simple. You really get into a groove with it really quickly. And because I'm doing 2 rows of each colour, I'm carrying my yarn up the side, which means that I'm only going to have a couple of tails to sew in at the end, yet we still get this gorgeous effect. So obviously, because this sample here is done in a black yarn, there is no way that I could use this for the tutorial, so I will be using something different for the tutorial itself. But I really wanted to show you just how incredible it looks with these colours. So I do love to use black yarn, to be fair, it's just an absolutely useless one for a tutorial. So we're just using normal granny stitches and spike granny stitches, and it's a 2-row repeat and it is absolutely beautiful. So you can use absolutely any yarn and then just use whatever hook size your chosen yarn recommends. So you're going to do your foundation chain in a multiple of 3. So you'll just chain the width that you want your project to be and just make sure it's a multiple of 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I will meet you back once you have completed your foundation chain. Okay, I'm only doing a short sample piece. So I've done my chain of 18 and I'm going to add 1 chain onto the end. So I don't like working my granny stripes straight back. I like to have a nice solid row to start from. So we're going to work back a row of UK double crochet. But please do remember, in the US, these are your single crochet. So into your second chain from your hook, you'll put a UK double. So you'll insert your hook, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through both. And you'll do that into every single chain all the way along your work. Okay, don't worry if it curls slightly, it will flatten out as we work up our next row. So we're going to turn our work. Going to insert our hook straight into that very first stitch, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through both, and then behind the vertical post of that stitch, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through both. And that just gives us a treble height stitch, but without any gapping that you might get from a chain. So now we're going to be working trebles for the entirety of this project. So that is a UK treble, whereas in the US, they will be your double crochet. So when you hear me say treble, if you're used to US terms, then just think double. So into that very same stitch that we've just come up from, we're going to put a UK treble. So yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So we've got 2 trebles into that first stitch. You're going to skip 2 stitches now, and then you're going to work 3 trebles into the third stitch. So skip 2 and then 3 trebles all in that same stitch. Oops. 2 and 3. And again, skip 2, 3 trebles into the next. And you'll work that all the way along until you get towards the end of your row, which is where I'll meet you in just a second. Okay, so I'm pretty much towards the end now. I've got a couple of stitches left, so I'm just going to skip, and then into my very last stitch I'm going to work 2 trebles because we want to start and finish each row the same way. So we started this row with 2 trebles, so we will finish with 2 trebles. And that is how you should look at the moment. So I'm going to be doing 2 rows of each colour. I'm not counting my foundation row with this. I'm going to continue with my grey for 1 more row, and then I will show you how I will be changing colours. So I'm going to turn my work again, and then into this very first stitch, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through both, behind the vertical post of that stitch, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through both. So it alternates each time, so you'll have one row where you'll have 2 trebles, and then the next row you will have just 1 treble, and then again the next row you will have 2. So it will change each row, so it is a 2-row repeat when it comes to that part of the pattern. Now I can't do my spike stitches with my first couple of rows. I won't be doing my first set of spike stitches until I change colour. So your first 2 rows will just be rows of normal granny stitches. So straight into this first space here, I will do my 3, I'll do my 3 trebles. So 1, 2, and 3. And then again, 3 trebles in your next space. So again, you can work that all the way along. So your granny cluster, so 3 trebles into each space, and I will meet you towards the end of your row. So I've got one final space here to do my 3 trebles into, just before my end stitches. And then we've got those 2 trebles from the previous row. So again, you want to start and finish in the same way. So we want to start with finish. So we want to finish with 1 treble on its own, just like we started this row with. So you've got those 2 trebles. So into the top of the final treble, you will just work a treble on its own, like so. So now we will start building up with our alternation of spike stitch and normal granny, spike stitch, normal granny. So I'm going to be changing colours here. However, if you were continuing with the same yarn, if you were using a cake, for example, you would turn and then you will work up just as we do, and then put your second treble into that same stitch. But I'm going to change colours here. So I'm just going to pull back to where I have my 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to pull my colour through those final 2 loops, and I'm just going to secure that with a chain 1. Okay, now I plan to do 2 rows of each colour, which means I will be able to carry my yarn up the sides. However, if that's not what you were planning to do, or if you were planning to do 4 or 6 rows, then the gap would be too big really to carry your yarn, so you may wish to snip off. But I'm going to carry up, so I'm just going to drop that grey tail and move on with my colour. So again, we've turned, and in exactly the same way into that first stitch, I will yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through both, and again behind the vertical post, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through both. Now we want a second treble into this first stitch, because we're on a row now where we want 2 trebles. So we're going to skip across our cluster and we're going to put a treble into our next space, and then we're going to start working with our spike stitches. So your spike stitches will be worked into the top of that middle treble from that cluster which is directly below. So you'll yarn over, go into the top of the treble, yarn over and pull up. Make sure you pull up nice and tall, keep it quite loose, otherwise your work will bow in from the top. So pull it nice and tall, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then you want your third treble to go back into that same space. So you'll have treble, spike, treble, treble. And then again, skip across and you'll do your treble, and then again spike treble into the middle treble from that cluster below. So yarn over through the whole of the top of the stitch, yarn over and pull up nice and tall so that your work won't bow, and then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then again your third treble back into that space, and you'll work that all the way along, and I will meet you in just a second. So I've worked into my final space, and then I've got this final cluster here and that treble on its own. So I'm going to skip the 3 trebles, and then I'm going to work my 2 trebles into that very last treble which is on its own. So I will skip these 3 and work 2 trebles into that end stitch. 1 and 2. So that is the first row of your spike stitches, looking all beautiful. I'm going to turn now, and we're switching back to a row of normal granny stitches. So straight into this first stitch, as always, yarn over and pull up and just do your little treble height stitch. But we're on a row now where we only want 1 treble in that first stitch, which we've just done. And then again, straight into this first space, you'll do your normal 3 trebles. And you'll work that all the way along, so your 3 trebles into each space. And I will meet you at the other end in a second. So I've worked my final 3 trebles into my last space, and then I've got my 2 trebles at the end here. So I want to do, because we're on a row that is just 1 treble at the beginning, I want to work 1 final treble into that very last stitch. So I will be skipping this one and working my last treble into that very end stitch. However, I'm changing colours again, so I'm going to stop with my 2 loops on my hook, and I'm going to pick up this grey by pulling it through those 2 loops. I'm going to turn, drop my colour, and then I'm ready to go again with the next row. So again, as always, I will work up that treble height stitch, and then we're switching back to a row where we're starting with 2 trebles, because this is our spike row now. So again, we're switching back, so you've done your 2 trebles, and then straight into this space here I will do a treble, and then I'm going to work my spike treble into the top of that middle treble from the row directly below, yarn over and pull up tall and complete your stitch, and then again back into that same space, your 3rd treble of the set. So you will work your spike row again, and always make sure you're pulling up that stitch nice and tall so that your work doesn't bow into the centre. So again, you'll work that all the way along, and I will meet you at the end in just a second. Okay, so we want to finish with our 2 trebles, so you'll skip these 3 trebles and work your 2 trebles into that very last stitch. Okay, so that is your spike row completed again, and then you will turn and you will work a normal granny row, and then you will just alternate those 2 rows, so you'll do those 2 rows repeated all the way along until your project is the size that you want it to be. Okay, so when it comes to finishing off your project, I like to finish in the same way that we started, with a row of double crochet. So I would complete my spike row, my normal granny cluster row, and I would do it in the black so that the top and the bottom is the same, but obviously that would be absolutely useless on the camera to use black yarn. So I would just show you with the rainbow yarn. So I would turn my work as normal, and then into that first stitch, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through both, and that will count as your first double crochet. So remember, these are your UK double, US single, and then simply into the top of every single stitch all the way along you will just put a double crochet. So nice and simple way to finish off, and then your top and bottom will be exactly the same. But that is it for this tutorial. I really do hope that you have enjoyed this one. Remember to subscribe to the channel, also click on that bell icon so that you don't miss any new tutorials. But I will see you for a new one really soon. But thank you as always for watching, and bye for now.